tell me about when these panic attacks started? Yes, it was after my nan died. Work had been really stressful and I hadn't been sleeping well at all. I had this big meeting at work with these really difficult customers. I started to get really panicky and stressed, and that just got worse, and I ended up having this big panic attack where I had to leave the room. And what happened after that? So I was so embarrassed, I didn't want to see that customer again. So I passed that project to one of my other colleagues. Okay, so you didn't need to see that customer anymore. So did that help? Well, kind of, but then I started to get panicky in other meetings and I started to try and get out of those too. So what you're saying is that your problem started when you were in a big meeting with a difficult customer, but when you passed them on, you started to find other meetings difficult, is that right? Well, I don't know, I don't understand it. Well, what happened after you started to avoid the other meetings at work? Well, I just started to get anxious about all meetings, even with one-to-one meetings with colleagues that I used to feel really comfortable with. Okay, so it sounds like the panic was getting worse? Yes, absolutely. And why do you think that was? Well, it just seems the more I avoided the problem, the bigger it got. So what you've told me so far is that you were at this party on the weekend and you were feeling really anxious and you were worried that you might come across as boring. Is there anything you did to make things better? Yes, I had 2 beers as soon as I arrived. I felt more relaxed and less self-conscious, and I was able to talk more. So does drinking alcohol work then? Well, kind of, but then when I got home, I started to get worried that I'd bored people by talking too much about my holiday. Why is that? Well, I wonder by having those 2 beers, I didn't notice that other people were getting bored when I was talking. And have you seen your colleagues since the party? No, I managed to work from home yesterday, but I am going into the office next for a meeting and I'm dreading it. So just checking this out here, you were worried that you were going to come across as boring at this party, so you drank some alcohol so that you could talk more, but now you're worried that you talked so much you bored them about your holiday. Is that right? Yes, well now I'm even more worried than I would have been if I hadn't had those beers. So what do you think you need to do to manage parties better in future? I don't know, but I can't keep on drinking beers because that doesn't work. So what you've told me so far is that when you were walking home on Tuesday, you had a thought that you may have pushed over an old lady outside your office building. Is that right? Yes, I have these thoughts quite a lot. And how did you feel when you had that thought? Awful. I just felt so panicky and sick. Well, it does sound like a horrible thought to have. What did you do? What I always do, I walked right back to the office and checked that there was no one on the ground. Did you do anything else? Yes, I looked at the security guards to see if they were responding to me differently, but they were just chatting. And how did you feel then? Relieved. I think I would have been worried all evening if I hadn't gone back to check. So how often do you get these intrusive memories? A few times a day, but it depends on what I'm doing. What do you mean by that? Well, I can get them any time of day, but when I'm at work, I'm busy, so I tend to get more of them in the evenings when I'm not doing so much. So is there anything you do to help cope with them? Well, I try not to think about it and I try to think about something else. I also try and keep busy in the evenings, but often I'm just too tired after work. So you're trying not to think about it when the memory pops up in your mind? Yes, it kind of works for a bit, but they often come back. Can you talk me through what you wrote down for yesterday morning in your diary? Yes, I have it here. So I had a terrible night's sleep, so when my alarm went off, I turned it off and I just went back to sleep. So when did you get up? It was 10 a.m. The kids had left for school by then, and when I went downstairs to the kitchen, it was a great big mess. And how did that make you feel? Well, I was quite upset with myself and feeling guilty because I should have been there to see them out the door in the morning, but I also felt really cross because then I had to clear up all their mess and I still had loads of my own chores to do.